Hello, you are listening to the Field Coach Experts podcast, where we share the franchisee support secrets that are unlocking hidden profitability in progressive franchise brands across North America. Today, we're going to be talking about something that we are seeing a lot of people have aha moments about, which is exciting. And it might not be the first time you've heard me or anyone on our team talk about this, but we just think that when we see so many people have these aha moments, we need to keep getting the word out. So it's about the difference today between consulting and coaching and why it matters. And so I'm joined today by Rachel. Okay, let me try that one again. I'm joined today by Rachel Southard, the COO at Happinest Brands and the CEO of ecomaids, which is one of the brands at Happinest Brands. So you'll tell us a little bit about this. So, well, welcome, Rachel. Actually, before I get your intro, well, I'll say welcome. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay, before I get your intro, which I'm going to get in one sec, I just wanted to tell the audience how I had the privilege of interviewing you, Rachel, alongside a high-performing franchisee, Joe Lindemeyer of California Closets, for the IFA's. There was a franchise relations committee webinar we did talking about a little bit about what we're talking about today and helping brands think about going from a more reactive approach to more proactive coaching. So people might be able to go find that. But I loved hearing your insights, and I'm excited to review a little bit of what we talked about and then go deeper. So let's get your background.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. So my name is Rachel Southard. I'm one of those weirdos who grew up in franchising. It is
That's where we get along.
Yeah, exactly. I've never done anything else. My first job when I was 15 was working in the daycare of A Lady of America, women's fitness franchise, not around anymore. And I was with that company for 8 years. Went from childcare to front desk to manager, group fitness instructor, GM, personal training director over multiple locations. Put myself through college working there. When I graduated college, I flipped over to the franchisor side, and I was spent about 10 years with the Anytime Fitness franchise. We went from one brand to multiple brands, platform company, started with a few hundred locations to 4,000 locations worldwide, 33 countries, global growth. I left Self-Esteem Brands and went into home services, where I became the brand president for a brand called Men in Kilts, and then later over emerging brands, leading Granite Garage Floors, Patio Patrol at Threshold Brands. And then about 3 years ago, I left and joined Happinest Brands, another home services platform. Started as the CEO of ecomaids, now COO of the platform, helping to grow and scale our home service platform. So that is my franchise background in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, that was really impressive. It's just insane how much background you have in franchising. And you know what I have to call out is when you say you grew up in franchising, you grew up by putting yourself into it without realizing probably.
Yes.
I grew up like my dad literally is a franchisor, but I'm more impressed because you worked your way through to this.
I didn't even make that connection until years later that I looked back and was like, wow, I almost 10 years worked for a franchisee, a multi-unit franchisee. I didn't even realize in the moment I was in franchising until way later in my career.
It's actually interesting. I think, quick side note, I think a lot of franchisees could do a much better job of making sure that their team understand what it is so that they can help promote it to their friends and family and community, that franchising is small business and like I work for this person, they own the business, they live and breathe in the community. But look at that. That is just so amazing. I think that's so cool. I don't think we went that far back when we did the last webinar.
The last webinar, yeah.
Now I know. Okay, so that's why you totally understand this topic so well, and you've seen it all. So I just want to clarify for the audience the difference. So if they haven't heard this before, or maybe they need a review, we always at AC Inc. we say consulting is when the FBC or whatever the person they call field coach or area manager shows up or whether it's on Zoom or shows up to the franchisee and has all the expertise. And the franchisee asks the questions, the FBC or whoever's supporting has the answers, and they are the expert. The person in the field is the expert. And I do think sometimes franchisors want them to be seen as the expert so they have credibility. But as soon as the franchisee doesn't think that that person knows more than them or thinks, I know more about my market.
Yeah.
Now they don't want to talk to the person in the field, right? So that's
no value. I don't get any value from that person.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything to what you see as that difference? Like, before we go to what coaching is, like just defining consulting or that sort of side of things.
Yeah. I mean, in a really simplistic way, to me, I feel like consulting is reactionary and coaching is being proactive. It's reactive versus proactive. If you're consulting, you're waiting for the questions to come to you and you're giving the answers. It's always a reaction versus coaching, anticipating, being able to look ahead and see what you don't see and asking questions about it and getting you to look ahead and being more proactive.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. I think this is good for people to think about. Those are two very different ways of supporting franchisees. The other thing with consulting that I always say is because I was in that role, and sounds like you've been in that role of supporting franchisees, and it feels really good in the moment. Like I gave you an answer, and I leave, and I'm like, or we get off the call, and I'm like, I helped them so much, and
they need me.
They need me. Yeah, I helped, or I solved the problem for them. But then what happens when I'm not there? And then we wonder why. This is something I've been really realizing lately. We wonder why do franchisees seem to not have any boundaries with their coaches, texting them at 9:00 at night or on the weekend?
Yes.
Because so coaching, let's just go a little deeper on then coaching. You already gave some really good points there. So it's being more proactive, thinking ahead. What else would you say about coaching, the difference?
I think it's about creating a growth mindset. And I think that's when I think about if there's one superpower that a successful franchisee has, if I'm ever comparing, like, why were these franchisees successful and these weren't? 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say it's mindset. Like, they had a growth mindset, and you can't nurture a growth mindset if you're always just getting the answers thrown at you. Growth mindset comes from critical thinking, like really being able to find the answers on your own. And you don't get that when a consultant's giving it to you. You're not being forced to think. You're just getting the answers all the time.
Yeah, it can be really late, like almost lazy but not blaming the coach. This is like we'll get through this as we go, but that this is the way most franchisors are supporting franchisees. So we'll get into
It's kind of the way it's always been. And we're really good as franchisors to not reinvent the wheel and let me just do that thing that other franchisor is doing because it seems to be working over there, so let's do that. And before you know it, it's been like years and years later and we're all doing the same thing and not realizing that, hey, there's a better way.
I love that you just said that. And so I just almost felt that for a minute, like when you don't know something, when you're like new at maybe being a leader in franchising, you've worked your way up to these higher level and now very executive leadership positions. But you probably, you look around. I think it's just human nature. You look around and you go, how's everybody else doing it? Okay, that must be the way. And then you don't question it because there's brands that seem to be doing it.
Yeah.
So then, and that's why.
They figured it out. Let's just do what they're doing.
Yeah. And then why isn't it working? And that's, I guess, that's actually briefly mentioned why we ended up talking.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all really good about going on podcasts and sharing all the amazing things that we do. And we don't share the like, oh yeah, that's not working. And we did that wrong. And, so we just make these assumptions that, the way others are doing it must be working. I'm not hearing anything bad about it. Let's do it. And
or just not like, well, that just is perfect segue into me asking you. So look, you can incorporate a little bit of not to be promotional for AC Inc., but so people can understand how you're shifting. Maybe incorporate or maybe just share what was happening when we connected. I mean, we've known each other
Yeah.
for a while, but when you said, "Hey, like, can you help us with this?" What was happening that led you to thinking something needed to change? Let's go there,
Yeah.
and what you did. Like, let's just give the context for the audience
Sure.
of what you've been working on.
So I would say there were two kind of core things happening. One, we're a platform company, 4 different brands, and we had inconsistencies across all 4 brands. Everyone was approaching coaching completely differently, or I should say support completely different.
Right,
Um,
right.
from what we were calling our business coaches, we all had different titles. Some were in the field, some were regional, some were remote, some were, didn't really have geographies that they supported. Some
Even
were,
within a brand, probably too, right?
yeah,
Like one of
yes.
your biggest brand is Lawn Doctor,
Lawn
right?
Doctor is our biggest brand. We
So
had
was it even within that
even
brand?
within the brand, even within a small brand that had 2 coaches. Because as
Mm,
soon as you add your second coach, you are now scaling, which means that second coach should be doing exactly what that first coach is doing. And if you don't have a framework in place at that point in time, you are already expanding and scaling without foundational pieces in place, and you're going to start to feel pain at some point in the future. So we absolutely had that. We had brands doing it different, within brands doing it different. And for us, that the pain point we were feeling was the value that shared services brings when you're working in a platform. Like it is about scale. Scale is the game. Like our financial team, our finance team, our marketing team, our HR team, like they are supporting multiple brands. If every person in every brand is doing the same, has the same problem, but they're solving it in a completely different way, you can't scale that.
right.
Especially if you're like a marketing team that provides franchisee facing support and every brand comes with you with a problem and are expecting you to interact with franchisees in a completely different way, that is not scalable. So that was like a pain point we needed to solve.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing we saw was just, we kind of mentioned this earlier, it was a very reactive approach. It was absolutely consultative. It was come to me with your questions and I will bring you answers. And there was no really looking ahead at business growth opportunities on how you can really take your business to the next level, because we were so in the weeds on putting out fires that we were missing these growth opportunities. So those were kind of the two things that we saw. Our at Happiness, and I would assume at most franchisor companies, your coaching support team is probably one of your bigger team, more expensive departments that you have. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to quantify ROI when you're not operating within a framework. And that was an opportunity that we saw.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you if we could see if we can go even a little deeper. I'm hearing what I like. Probably people can hear what the problem actually was. So, what is the problem when it's reactive? I mean, you did say that there was an opportunity for growth, but also like what other problems come up when you're being reactive and it's not scalable?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
what
I
are you
think it's a
seeing?
couple things. One, you're creating an expectation with your franchisees on what they get, what the value is that they get when they interact with you. And if I consistently reinforce, come to me when you have a problem, I'm going to give you the answer. I'm going to always come to you when I have a problem to get an answer. I'm not going to come to you when I don't have a problem and I'm in a position of I need to grow my business, or maybe I'm not hitting break even, or I want to be more profit, I want to increase my margins. Like when I start having those true business growth, I'm going to say opportunities, the first person I think of is not my business coach. I'm probably going to go like talk to other franchisees, hire an outside person that's not even with the franchise. I don't
Yeah.
even think of you as the person that can come in and unlock growth. So, like, to me, it wasn't that we were necessarily sitting in this pain. It was just we were sitting in this, like,
Missed opportunity?
I have franchisees who need to grow, and I have business coaches who can help you grow, and we weren't connecting together. And that
Right.
was the opportunity. Like, how do we put those two together?
Right, yeah. And I'm guessing, the middle performers that's where you probably see it the most, right? Especially
For
like the
sure.
middle
Yes.
performers that they just need that little bit, they need someone to help them think about, like, one thing I guess, another thing about coaching is that we want to make sure we understand the franchisees why and their goals, right? And
Yep.
reverse engineering. Like, I see your EOS traction behind
Yep.
you. I
Yep.
mean, our framework is based on
Yes.
traction. We help put customize into your brands, but
Yep.
also just because, well, I was going to say, because we saw that EOS was a little bit sometimes not a great fit for franchisees.
Yep.
But yeah, knowing their why and their goals, and then reverse engineering it from there. So, yeah, that wouldn't have been happening.
That was not happening. That was absolutely not happening. So that was one of the when we this was a big project and a big mess to unwind. Like, how do we even implement this across 4 brands and 4 different things? And we're talking about a brand that's been in business for over 50 years.
Right.
Franchisees that have been in our system and or their business being in their family for 30
Yeah.
plus years. They've been doing things one way, all the way to the launch of a brand new brand. Like, sold, we're less than 2 years in on one of our brands, like started from
Mhm.
zero, right? Um, 4 different brands in 4 completely different places in their journey. Where do we even start? Like,
Right.
where do you even start? And that is why I partnered with AC Inc. was I needed just a jump start, a shortcut. Like, I needed a framework to work within, and um, have a coach from your side to challenge me in my thinking and what we were rolling out. I feel like even working with you guys at AC Inc., it wasn't necessarily just come in, it's a one for all consulting, here's the
Yeah.
play. It was
Yeah.
coaching. It was like, let's analyze where you guys are, where the issues are, and a lot of challenging questions that came to me to really think through, like, how do we make this work for our team? But we had a framework to start with, right?
Right. That's so cool to hear it put that way. Another thing one thing I want to point out to people is we find that the people that come to us, it's not that they can't do it.
Yeah,
It's that it's sort of
absolutely.
this, like, that's not, I don't have time to focus on creating this. You know what you want, like,
Yeah,
the elements you're looking for, but to go create it. So it's not a lack of ability. It's tapping into a resource that to fast track, like you
yeah,
said, and
fast
make
track.
this. Yeah, and one thing about your company's brand, platform brand, is you did have some. We had to customize it a fair bit, right?
Yeah,
Like, we have, and we always do.
yeah,
But we've got this framework. So just for people that are listening, what we're talking about here is that we worked together to get this framework in place, but a lot of back and forth, like, well, what do you have for KPIs, and and what tools are you currently using and resources, so that we don't have to disrupt that. What's working? Let's
yeah,
take what's working and
exactly.
build that, right? So, and I'm sure, like, some time has passed, but it's a continuous process. It's
Yeah,
not like,
yeah,
okay, we're done now, we're
yeah,
good, right?
yeah.
Like, we're
Yeah, I
still
mean, when
working.
you're dealing with a brand that's been in operation for over 50 years, you can't just throw it all away and start with something completely different. So we really did have to take the time. And one of my favorite exercises I've always used is a start, stop, continue. I use this
Yeah.
all the
Oh,
time. So
that's
it was kind of going into each brand, and we really incorporated the coaches into this process. I wanted the coaches to be a part of the process and to give feedback. So when you think about the difference between consulting and coaching and knowing what we're really trying to move to, what's really working that we want to continue doing, what are the things that aren't working we should stop doing, and what are the things we're not doing that we should start doing, and getting that feedback from the coaches and really looking at each brand and getting all the best of the best and making it a part of the play. Like, how does that fit into the AC Inc. framework? That's where our customization really came in.
And that's also required to create buy-in, because
Yeah.
like, coaches can be a little resistant when they hear that you're going to work with when brands work
Yeah.
with us, because they're like, well, what are, but when they understand that, no, you're part of the process,
Yes.
and you're going to get development out of this, and so that sounds like
Absolutely.
part of how you were able to create that buy-in. So, okay, I think we're kind of clear on that. And so, well, yeah, we'll come back to kind of how things are now. But I think I just want to ask, I don't know if we quite covered this, but I wanted to make sure that field teams are currently out there. They're more responsive, and franchisors often, like you said, we kind of copy off each other and go, this seems to work over here, so we'll do this. And all this consulting is happening. What do you think franchisors are getting wrong about that model? Like when they're doing it this way? I don't know if we've quite covered
Yeah.
that.
I think the number one thing that we do wrong is we wait too long to address this. I think it's easy to, this can sneak up on you. If you are a smaller emerging brand and you've got one coach and they're operating in that consultative manner and giving the answers, it's like it's working. It's one coach, not a whole lot of franchisees.
Yeah.
As soon as you start to scale and you get your second coach and your third coach and you've got 50 franchisees, you've got 100 franchisees, you don't realize until you've gotten to the pain points of, I can't keep up, they're always reaching out, I have to constantly, if I don't respond within a few minutes, they freak out. You get to a point where you've created these habits that are really hard to break, and it's too late, and now you're in a lot of pain. You've got turnover with your coaches because they can't manage it, and you can't go to a, unfortunately, 10-to-1, 20-to-1 ratio with coaching. You can't. So you have to figure out a way to scale and it work for you as a franchisor and your bottom line, but also franchisee feels like they're getting value from that role. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is we wait too long to address it.
That's so interesting because we do see people sort of deprioritize this because I think because there's an expression I've heard and I always share: a confused mind says no. And so I think it's sometimes hard to tie actually fixing this problem to the ROI, which maybe we'll go there. Maybe we can go there. That's the big question. Yeah. And so we talk to brands and they're like, we know we need this, but we're not ready, or, and I think it's because, it is a new approach that they want to see results. And actually I wanted to give a shout out to you for the people that we've worked with. We're starting to get more into the mainstream right now, but I would call you and some others that we worked with earlier on like early adopters, and you're blazing the trail with us by changing franchising. You're helping people because people are going to look, well, what are learning from you now, right, out there, and when you go to conferences and things, and so thank you, by the way, for that. And even just being on this podcast, sharing how you saw things and with all that depth of experience. And I, people that know me know I'm really mission driven, and I'm really excited about that. So what made you, I guess I'm going to start here. Sorry, I gave you some ideas on questions. This was a new one I didn't give you. But what made you believe in, without us being able at that time, especially because earlier on, being able to give you any data?
Yeah.
What made you know this is a good thing to invest in? It's a good idea, whether it was AC Inc. or anyone. It's not about us. But what made you know that we need to invest in this change? Like, how did you know?
I think we do question a lot, how do you tie ROI to business coaching? And I'm a bit very data driven, and that was one of the things I looked at was put ramp aside, and the way that we structure our coaches is, you have your ramp coaches that are first couple of years of operation. I'm going to say 2 years and up, that's kind of the core. You are a little more consultative in that ramp period. It's a brand new franchisee. There is a lot more of giving answers.
You're training and teaching. And that's, we actually call that something different even than consulting, but it kind of looks like.
Exactly, yes. You're in this training mode. You're ramping the business up. But if you really look at 2 years and up, that's growth. That's where coaching, there's this opportunity to really unlock. And for me, it was you have to be really careful, and I don't look at my people as numbers. My franchise business coaches are extremely talented. We have an amazing group of coaches. But at the end of the day, we are a for-profit. We are a business. We have a board and investors that we answer to, and you have to justify every penny that you're investing. And human capital is an investment. So if I'm going to invest this much, what I'm getting back. I also feel that we pay really well for coaches. The way that we incentivize coaches as well, I think it's more than anyone else in the industry.
Yeah.
And that is a nice little plug there. If you're,
Yeah.
any coaches out there when it comes to happiness, we're the best. But
Yeah.
that comes with accountability and really high expectation, and that's
Right. It's not a
why
fluffy here. We
it is
just pay you a
not.
lot.
It is not. So what I looked at was if we have this conversation a lot about the ratio. How many how many
Yes.
franchisees
Everybody
do you work
loves
with?
to ask that question.
And to me, it wasn't so much about, I wasn't looking at that number and making the math work that way. It was, okay, how much do I pay a business coach? And with any investment, any dollar I put into the machine, I want at least a 3 to 5 times ROI on my investment. So if I'm going to pay a coach this much, then what is the return that I should be getting? And there's really easy math that you can do there. Now, that is the value of royalties that I should get in return for that coach's time and effort they're putting into growing. So what is we call them cohorts. As a business coach, I have a cohort of franchisees that are my cohort. That revenue from my cohort should generate this much, and that is how I get that investment. So then there's this extreme accountability now from a coach perspective of I am held accountable to helping my franchisees grow their revenue, and we incentivize them on that growth. We also incentivize them, obviously that is a lagging indicator, but we also incentivize on leading indicators. So obviously there's a revenue target that if my cohort hits this revenue, I'm incentivized by that. Well, what's the leading indicator that gets to that? It's engagement. Are you
Right.
meeting with them a minimum times a month, or depending on what phase that they're in? Are you doing growth planning with them and using the tools and like we track all of those things because those leading those activities are what drive the outcome. So we've built our process around accountability that leads to outcome. So our franchise business coaches, it's a really it's an intense yet really rewarding role, and you're not going to achieve those goals if you're just reactionary and consultative. You just won't, because then you're, like we talked about earlier, you're teaching your franchisees to always call you, you're always on the react, putting out fires. Then you're not getting to lift your head up and really look at growth opportunities and be in a completely different headspace when
Yeah.
you're coaching your franchisees.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting is so well, of course, we run a field support roundtable that's free for. So if anybody's listening and like, hey, I don't have my coaches at that roundtable, or if you're a coach and you're listening, just on Zoom, weekly. And I from time to time, I ask them, I say, we talk about the difference, what we're talking about here. And I say, would you rather be consultative, reacting,
Yeah.
or would you rather be coaching for growth? Or I don't even know if I say coaching for growth. I think I've said, like, would you rather be coaching? And 100% of them would rather be coaching.
Yeah.
And that might sound obvious, but I would say consulting is a little easier. It's just like I love just show up for a call and answer the questions and then leave, and then and you can text me once in a while, I'm going to answer your question on a text. Like, that actually is easier. And I ask them why, and they say because it's fulfilling and rewarding just to help that franchisee grow. I'm getting goosebumps as I say that.
Yeah.
So that's like what you're saying is, it's rewarding, but it's tough. And so anyone that's listening, if you're looking for work, I don't know if you're hiring right now, but always be hiring though. But it is a good point. Go find a company that, that's where you're going to get the rewards, is where if there is an incentive program and there is, an expectation on you, at least you're going to get support as a coach for playing that out.
I will, okay, so that feeling you get when you give the answer, like, because it's that like self-fulfilling like feel.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like reverse that.
Okay.
Imagine that feeling you get when you, and you don't have to think of this like in an FBC franchisee capacity, but any role, like, oh my gosh, like I came up with this great idea and I did it and it was awesome, and like how good that feels.
So you get a dopamine hit.
You get a dopamine hit, right? And so imagine now reversing this, and if I'm the coach and you're my franchisee, and I ask you one really powerful question, and then you think and you're like, oh, I should do this. and then you have this dopamine hit and you're like, oh, that's a good idea, I'm going to do this and then this, and now I'm associating you with that. Like, why is it that every time I talk to Angela, I have this unlock and I have these great ideas, and it's
Yeah.
like you're still,
Yes.
you were bringing so
Yes.
much value in a completely different way, and
Yeah.
people want to be around people that make them feel good, right? It's that, I don't remember what you said, but I remember how you made me feel
Yeah.
when I talk to you as my coach. And every time I talk to you, I have this unlock, I'm associating you with that, and then you just create this pattern of more engagement because now I'm getting more value,
Yes.
versus I only want to talk to you when I need something. There's not
Yeah.
even a lot of value in that, right?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love that. And that is what coaching does, because coaching, when a franchisee, or just, I mean, I have business coaches, different coaches over the years for different things, like even,
Yeah.
or a personal trainer or whatever, and they're
Yeah.
empowering me. You know that you're going to go on that call and you know you're going to get like, well, you create space to think about your business,
Yeah.
and you're going to get challenged in those unlocks no matter what, versus, oh, I'm getting on the call and I don't have any questions today.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So I want to just, so this engagement, so back to this ROI thing.
Yeah.
Um, so another thing we're getting at here is the showing up, right? Like you said, you measure if the coaches, I love the leading indicators too, by the way, because that's a little easier to measure.
Yeah.
If the coach, how many coaching calls they have or whatever. And I'm sure an element of that is whether or not franchisees actually show up, because
Yeah.
we know franchisees sometimes just say, I can't.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
they can drive the engagement to the point where the franchisee wants to show
Show
up.
up. They
That's
want to
being
be
measured
there.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's, if, again, like if I'm, every time I meet with you, I'm getting some value from it, then I'm going to want to meet with you again. And
Yeah.
by value, it's not just what happens in the call, it's what you unlock that I go and do after that call. And then it's like, oh, like that really worked. Now I need more. And I'm going to come back for like, what's the next thing? So it's not, if you give an answer to a question right there, it's done. Like, gave you the answer, you got what you needed, it's done. But
Yeah.
if we unlock action and activity that leads to more progress in your business, it's
How
not
can you,
done. It's like the gift that keeps giving, right?
yeah. Well, and that's where, going back to the ROI, like this is, I love this conversation, because when I get the opportunity to speak with senior leaders in other platform brands, or just other larger established brands, or PE guys or gals, that's just, this is a common question we get, right? The ROI. We've been working at AC Inc. I mean, things are just happening at light speed. So we're trying to keep
Yeah,
up, but
yeah,
we're trying to collect data that, like, at least the leading indicators, because it's a little early to collect. Sometimes it takes
yeah.
time till you can
Full
get the
cycle
royalties
for sure.
actually up,
Yeah,
right? So, but by what you're hearing, and what I always think is that, yeah, it's sort of an obvious thing that if a franchisee is engaged, they're taking action, like you said, after a call, you're definitely seeing they've got this growth mindset. Like, though, you see that as ROI, it sounds like.
absolutely. And you will see it in the revenue numbers because, again, our coaches are held accountable to that and incentivized by their cohort hitting that growth, because that's where you create the win-win. It's a win-win for the coach. It's because their cohort hit the numbers. Their franchisee is winning because they're growing revenue, and so their unit level economics are stronger. And then it's a win-win for the franchisor because you've created this secular thing that's happening, right? So I think with I think the hardest part about this, and I think one thing we did, I'm not saying that this was the best thing to do because we're still working through it, but we rolled out AC Inc. and like our new coaching model in the same year and around the same time we rolled out EOS at our office. So at our franchisor. I think there were pros and cons to that. A lot of change would be the only con. A lot of change at one time is the only
Yeah.
con, which it can be hard with gulp rate and taking it in. But from one of the positive things that I love about both AC Inc. framework and EOS, and I know AC Inc. framework is really rooted in EOS, is
Right.
accountability. It's that
Right.
accountability that like every time we meet, there are KPIs that our coaches are held accountable to for their whole cohort. But now as a business coach talking to my franchisee, you have KPIs that I'm holding you accountable to. We're going to get on a call and you are going to tell me, like, are you on track or off track? Are you hitting these metrics or not? And there's something really real about knowing that I'm going to go into a call and that person's going to ask me, did I do the thing I said I was going to do? That level of accountability doesn't exist when you're in that
Consultant.
consultative mindset,
Yeah,
right?
and
And
reactive.
just
Yeah.
accountability and like just know it's honestly it's why I have a fitness background, right? Like
I feel like you're about to tell a secret.
like Anytime Fitness for 10 years and my
Yeah.
undergrad's in kinesiology. I was a personal trainer for years. I don't like working out. I hate it. Like I'm
See,
busy.
it is
Like
a secret.
it is a secret. Like it is.
You just told
I
all
find
two of our
every
listeners,
excuse
my
not
mom.
to. Yeah, it's like I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to do this. I have a personal trainer because I need that accountability, knowing they're going to at this time I have to meet this person. That is that accountability that I need. And then once I get into it, I'm like, I love it. You never regret a workout. It's like,
Yeah.
why do I fight this all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's the same
And you
thing.
feel
Like,
good after
you
because
feel
you're
good.
working towards your goals,
Yes,
right?
yes, but it's that accountability partner that it just levels up your own. You don't want to disappoint your partner. You don't want to disappoint yourself. Like it just elevates the game alone. So I think when you're talking about the ROI, one thing that I like to always think about is the what if you don't? Like, and I
Wow.
went through that. Not that we were ever questioning, like, let's not have coaches, but it is a really good exercise of what if we didn't? What if a
Mm.
franchisor did not have business coaches and they did not offer coaching? Can you like really go through that exercise? Like pretend
A
you're going
lot,
to
a lot
consider it.
don't. There's people out there,
It's
brands out
crazy to
there.
me. Like, because like
Yeah.
when you go through that exercise, you just realize like that's when you really start to force yourself thinking differently on what the ROI is. Like how much growth you're leaving on the table when you don't have someone there holding you accountable, checking in, empowering you. Like it,
Yeah.
you can really quantify it when you start thinking of it that way.
That's good. And just want to make sure people know we like, but all based on the franchisee's goals, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not like the problem is franchisor like teams or field teams are trying to hold franchisees accountable, but it's not their
Yeah.
goal. So
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
So
Weird.
I'll say once we rolled out the coaching, one of the big changes in our framework that we got from AC Inc. And very much rooted in EOS is starting kind of with the end in mind. Like,
Yeah.
what's your vision? What's your why? And building out like 10 years from now, where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Where do you want this business to be? And a lot of people are afraid to start with kind of the exit strategy, but like
Right.
start with the exit strategy. Like in 10 years, you're either going to sell this business or you're going to add more to it. You're going to need investment to grow. So what do you want your business to look like? Feel like we weren't having those conversations. And so I think that was kind of a big unlock for us when the coaches first, when we kind of said, okay, we're starting. Like, and we did a whole change management plan, communication plan. Franchisees knew it was coming, things are going to change.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, it's time to do your kickoff call. We're starting this new thing. And that very first call, I think, was a lot of moments from franchisees like, oh, I never even thought of that. I have never
Right.
taken this headspace to like think about where I want to be in 10 years. So like we started really slow with what's your why, what's your vision for your business, and that being able to tie back everything, all the like 2, 3, 4, 6 months later, you're going to get into fires, you're going to get into issues. And as a coach, it's so powerful to have that. Like, let's go back
Yeah.
to your why. Like on
Yeah.
those days when you want to give up, like let's go back to your why. So that was kind of the first big shift. And I think it was such a great reset moment for our franchisees.
I
Like,
bet.
this is
They were
something
like, wait,
different.
you care?
Yeah, this feels
Care?
different. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it was a good like we're drawing a line in the sand. We're starting something new, and that was kind of the first big unlock for us.
Wow. Like it's yeah, you're shifting to here's what we want to like, wait, what do you actually want?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
incredible for them. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
yeah,
That's awesome. I love that you're talking about accountability because I think people hear the word coach or coaching and they think fluff, right?
yeah,
It's like, no, this is actually the opposite. Like
yeah,
the beauty of coaching is that you build that trusting relationship so that you will know their goals and then you
yeah,
can use those and hold them accountable because they want to be held accountable.
yeah,
It also usually helps with compliance to some extent because that all ties in, right?
yeah. I think
Um,
the other thing too is like you mentioned earlier about being like when you're a consultant, you're the expert. And I
mhm.
would say one of the big things we learned when we rolled out our strategic growth coaching was I'm trying to think of how to articulate this with our coaches. Um, there's this coaching confidence factor.
Hmm.
And when you are positioned as the expert, then you're going to talk about the things that you are an expert in, and you're going to avoid the things that you're not an expert in.
Yeah.
And I realized, and this is not to be negative, this was actually really positive, um, the kind of competency and skill gaps that we had across our franchise business coaches. Like, oh, you're really good at that thing, but you know nothing about this. Oh, you're really good at that thing, you know. So you start to realize like where you have, and to be honest, it's impossible to get someone who's an expert in all the things. Like that's not what
Yeah.
you're looking for.
Yeah.
But
Let's
when
let
you're,
that go.
yeah, and so when you start avoiding those conversations like financials and P&Ls and like because I'm not a financial expert, then I'm just
Right.
not really going to talk about it. But if I'm a franchisee, that's probably all I want to talk about and understand. And so when you move to putting your coaching hat on and you're not expected to be an expert, but
Hmm.
you are expected to know what questions to ask in that area. Like, well, what could you do? What could you, there's some really powerful questions you can ask that are related to any topic
Hmm.
that will unlock the franchisee coming up with the answers on their own.
Yeah.
Or even like, well, who could you ask to find out more about that? Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to be the expert in
I
that.
love that. You know what? That is, yeah. I mean, I've thought of this before, but you really articulated it well there because the coaches have so much insecurity, a
Yes,
lot of it, about these certain things.
yes.
And this, yeah, that must
Like
explain why.
I don't want to even talk about that thing because I'm not going to have the answer. And they
And
think
I'm
I
going to
have the
show up
answer.
as not the expert, and it's
Yes,
going to be embarrassing because I'm going to look
yes,
stupid.
yes.
And that explain that. I mean, I kind of knew already, but this is different. This explains a lot why when people go through our certification program, which your
Yeah.
coaches have gone through, they come out with this, and it must be that it must
Confident,
be a
yes.
big element of it. They're like,
It's got to be a relief. Like, oh, I don't have to know everything, but I just need to know enough, surface level, to know what questions to ask to challenge my franchisee to think of the answer on their own. Or if it's something that they're not an expert in, then we know who, like, let's ask
go
about
find,
who's an expert that you can find. Like,
yeah, like go find a franchisee that is, or a team member
yeah,
that is. That's okay. Oh, I
yes.
love. I just had like my own aha moment
Because
because we
that was
actually
a big unlock. I think that's a really big unlock. Like that was one of our biggest things when we started the process. What was really most important to me was creating an environment where the business coaches felt confident. So when we rolled out strategic growth coaching, not only were we involving them along the way for that buy-in, we made sure we had weekly calls with the coaches. We wanted them to share early wins. As you're having those calls, share some of the scripting and the conversations and recordings. Like
right
anytime you had a
with each
call
other.
with each other. So anytime you had a really strong call where a franchisee was like, "Oh my gosh, this was amazing," that recording was going out to the team because we
Right.
wanted to share those wins and kind of steal from each other. Like, "Oh, what questions did you ask? What was So building their confidence up in that the fact that you don't have to be the expert in everything, and
Yeah.
let's share with each other our wins and our questions that we're using that kind of are giving franchisees that unlock.
Yeah, and that speaks to that whole, again, back to the scalability of when you have a centralized framework that you're all working from, and then like that's another thing we hear a lot of people say, like, are just everybody's doing their own thing, and we don't know how to get them more connected, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it sounds like you've done that.
yeah.
Okay, I got about two more
Okay,
questions, and then we're gonna do the challenge if you're okay
okay,
with that.
okay.
Okay. Okay, so let's just get real on. I mean, you've actually been very real about some of the challenges, but is there what I'm just curious, like you're some people take our framework into one brand, because that's all they are is one
Yeah,
big brand or one small brand, and you were rolling it out across the whole like the platform.
yeah,
We've done this with a couple of their platform brands, so we've gotten to see the
yeah,
challenges, but hearing from you, yeah, where did things start to break down or get
yeah,
messy? And then how did you handle that? I get
yeah.
you've kind of touched on a couple things, but whatever comes to
I feel
mind.
like we're still in the thick of the mess, and we will
Yeah,
be.
let's just
But
be real.
yeah, let's just be real. Like it is.
Never going to be perfect.
It's
So,
never going to be. It's a journey. It's a
yeah,
journey. There is no
yeah,
destination because everything's changing around us all the time.
yeah.
Um, I would say the hardest part for us has been probably more on the technology side.
Mm,
There's just been so much manual like the tools that our franchisees and our business coaches are using. Like we're still using spreadsheets versus
Yeah.
software. And we're working through, we have some, plans to fix that. I think the hardest part is, and what the best advice I can give is be okay being in the messy and it not being perfect. The
Hmm.
MVP is like, what is the
Minimum.
minimum viable product that I can get out, and there is some value from it. It may not be perfect, but I'm seeing some value, and knowing that you're going to iterate and improve along the way. Um, so for us, I think the most challenging part has been two things, but it's really technology, but that relates back to just the tools that the business coaches are using,
Hmm.
and BI. Like for us, from a tech stack perspective internally, we've got 4 different brands using 4 different CRMs.
Right.
We're building BI, we're building dashboards. So when we're talking about accountability and holding both business coaches and franchisees to certain KPIs, it's really challenging to do that when it's hard to get that data, when you don't have dashboards. So, but I didn't want to wait. I'm not going to wait to
Yeah.
have the perfect dashboard and the perfect
No,
CRM. Like,
yeah,
no, like
that would be crazy.
we're still getting value with just changing conversations.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
working through how we can just make like less manual, more automation.
Yeah, I got to throw in one kind of funny thing that's coming to mind here. So I get sometimes the opportunity to speak at franchisee, like as a keynote to
Yeah,
franchisees at the conference, right? And one of the things, especially if it's like a newer brand under 100 locations, one of the things that I've built in, and franchisors didn't ask me to do this, but I just had a feeling like it made sense. I love to tell them that, like it's normal what you're going through, like
yeah,
especially if they're at like 50 locations and I tell them, my dad, who scaled a franchise to almost 500 locations, his name is Mac, so that's a fun name, right? So people would say, "Hey, Mac, like you're at 100 locations now. You must feel so much better
yeah,
than when you had
yeah,
50." You
yeah,
know where I'm going with
yeah,
this. No, and now there's all new now we get to
yeah,
200. Still, no,
yeah.
like you're totally nodding right now, like you get it, right? And like 400.
Isn't it funny how you always think there's a destination? Like, oh,
Yeah,
once we get through this, things will be better. It's like, no, once you get through this, you just
new
found
challenges.
the next thing that you have to
Yeah,
solve
there's
for. Like,
always.
there wouldn't
Yeah.
be business or the world of business if there was a destination. Like, that's,
Yeah. So there's no end. And so I think it's important. I need the reminder even as an entrepreneur myself
yeah,
now. And, but like we think that we think that, especially when people look at a brand like yours and someone like you who's got all this depth of experience and would think, oh no, you're just going
you just
along.
figure it out. Don't you just
Yeah.
know how to do it? Like, no, the problems we're solving today are nothing like the problems we were solving 10 years ago. And the problems we're solving today are nothing like what we will solve 10 years from now.
But they're not easier or harder,
No,
probably.
no,
They're
they're
just, it's kind of like kids,
different.
like raising kids. Like,
Exactly.
like I'm not saying the franchisees, I'm saying business. Like
Yeah.
when they're a baby, they're a lot of work
You
for this
think they're
reason.
gonna, you think it's gonna get better, and then all of a sudden you have teenagers. That's where I'm at, and it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
any better.
There you go, right? Exactly. And it's different. Yeah,
It's
that's a
different.
really, I
It's a
like that
different kind of
analogy.
hard. Yeah.
What's that?
It's a different kind of hard.
Totally. That is exactly. Okay, that's good. So just that mention about technology and data and
Yeah.
BI and all that feels like a good, let's talk about the future a little bit.
Yeah.
So this will be the kind of last meaty question for you, and then I'm going to ask you for a challenge for our
Okay.
audience. So if they're listening, make sure you stick around because we're going to give you a way to go implement right away. But what skills or mindsets do you think will be important and key for franchisees and coaches in the next five
Yeah.
years?
So I think number one, transitioning from consultant to coaching is non-negotiable,
Hmm.
because if you think about everything we just said on what consultative is, and it's like an input and an output. Like, I have a question, here's the answer. I have a question, here's the answer. Guess who's really good at doing that?
Mm.
AI. And you're starting
Right.
to see more and more franchisors lean into building these, leveraging AI to build these
Yeah.
agents that have all the answers. You
Right.
are not going to have a job. Like a consultative FBC,
Right.
that role is going to disappear because I don't need to pay a six-figure salary
Right.
for that capability anymore.
Yeah.
Everything is just, you can load it into your AI, and hey, franchisees, put your question in and it's on demand anytime. They don't take a vacation. Like, that job is going away anyway. So
That's so true. Oh my
I,
God.
as a coach, if you are in this space, even if your franchisor is I'm a little behind and not ready to make the move, you as a coach start making the move in
Hmm.
your conversations so that you can kind of, you know, um,
Ooh,
put some safety.
add value to your
Yeah.
role.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Ooh,
Um,
that's a good one. I'm getting so many takeaways. This is good.
I think when I think about the future, I do think, and it's why I'm in this pain point I'm in right now with technology, is I think tech fluency is non-negotiable. I think that business coaches who are truly coaching
Hmm.
are going to have to continue coaching, but at AI speed. If
Yes.
you're not leveraging AI and BI and technology and software
Hmm.
to provide that value at speed,
Yes.
you're gonna fall behind. And here's why. We're moving into a new generation that's coming in, right? Like boomers are retiring, new generation of young entrepreneurs are coming in, and it's a generation that grew up on technology from day one,
Hmm.
and their expectations are very different. They are
Hmm.
expecting things to come at AI speed. When I have a question, when I need something, when I
Yeah.
have a problem to solve, why am I going to waste my time on a coach when I can go use AI to get the answer? So
Right.
you're going to have to be able to deliver value at a speed and at a way that I can't go get it on my own. So
Mhm.
um, I think it's that growth mindset doesn't go away. Like that's still a non-negotiable, but it's got to be at a speed we've probably never seen before.
Just to clarify, when you say that, I don't think you mean speed as in response time.
I do not. Thank you. No,
Okay, I'm
no,
just pretty sure you didn't mean that.
no.
You're talking about the coach being able to leverage AI to be able to use it. I'm big on. I use AI as a thought partner. I'm actually in a AI leadership collective,
Yeah.
based out of Austin, Texas,
Yeah.
by the way.
Oh,
So
I love
Texas,
it.
yeah. So to try to learn how do we use this to stay ahead of the
Yeah.
competition and it basically extends human capability and
Yeah.
capacity, right? Not just capacity, but
Yeah,
capability.
it
Is
is.
that what you're
Yes,
referring?
absolutely. So it's kind of that intersection of like technology, BI, AI, and the human element. Like, how do
Hmm.
we leverage those things together? So, how do I get access to data with speed, leverage AI to get insights on that data,
Yeah.
and be able to come up with really challenging questions to my franchisee using that
Yes.
ecosystem
Oh,
to get them thinking forward. Like, and when I think about in this, vulnerability here, like of where we really are, transparency more than vulnerability. We don't have strong BI today. We're building it. We're working on it. We don't have access to data. We don't have. We're still playing with like, is it ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude? Like,
yeah.
we don't know. Like, everybody's trying to figure out what the ecosystem is, but the ability to, you know, take a report and get data and put it in and synthesize and analyze and come up with 3 to 4.
Yeah.
Right now that takes a business coach so long to do
Hmm.
that. We don't, like, the expectation is closing in on the speed that we have to be able to, again, anticipate, be
Right.
proactive, be able to look at the numbers, look at what the trends are, ask you challenging questions, and get you solving a problem before it is a problem. Like, it's
Yeah.
an opportunity, it's not a problem. And if we can't do that at speed, we're not showing value to our franchisees that they're expecting.
That's incredible. That is such a smart insight, and I love you described that really well. I think people hear speed and they just think about writing emails faster and all that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
we're
no, no,
talking about using it as a thought partner here,
correct.
and doing your job, doing the things that the human needs to recognize. At with this AI leadership collective that I'm in, at the most recent offsite, we meet 3 times a year, and it's people from not there's only like one other person in it from franchising. It's mostly just all different businesses, and one of the big takeaways I got was hiring for agency
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to hiring, not even necessarily hiring for skills, but for the ability to develop yourself and use things like AI and use the
Yeah,
BI to bring value in your role.
yeah,
So
100%.
that's
Like, if
cool.
you're closed off to it, you are in trouble. You're in trouble because, again,
Yeah.
it's all about meeting consumer expectations. And in this sense, consumer being that new franchisee entrepreneur that's coming up and coming in, they're expecting it. If they can go do it faster than you, you're not providing value, and there's going to be a disconnect
And then
engagement.
they don't, then there's no human. And now
Right.
they don't need the human. And now they're going
Yeah.
to disengage with the franchisor,
Yes.
and they're probably going to not be compliant. They're probably not, the AI is probably not going to challenge them to have a growth mindset, or even if you tell it to.
Yeah.
It's even when it gets better, I still think there's gonna. My prediction is
There's always going to be the need for a human element, because there's always going to be those roadblocks that you get that you just don't know what to do. Even AI is going to say, you can do this, but you just don't know. And
you know that it might not be right,
yes,
and
yes.
also human connection.
Connection. Yeah.
Like I can't imagine ever, even if the robot looked like a human in my house. That's like my
Yeah. Yeah.
friend that I buy, or or a cleaner that looks like a human.
Yeah.
Would it ever actually have, the things that a human has that make it
Yeah.
unique? So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Okay. Like I feel like when a little kid, like you take your kids to the beach when they're little and they're like, "Do we have to go yet?" That's how I feel right now. Like I could talk to you all day. I just love it. So excited about this. But I guess, is there anything before we do the challenge that we missed, or we?
No, I don't think so. This was awesome. Like,
I think
really good.
we went into a lot of good areas here. So, okay, so we love, as you know, at AC Inc., we love for people to be able to leave and take action, and go take something from this episode right now. So what is something, if somebody's listening and they want to go take a step, what could
Yeah.
they go do?
I would challenge you, whatever role you're in, whether you're a business coach, a leader of people, you can even try this on your spouse.
Yeah, yes,
The
teenager.
next time you're in a conversation and someone asks you a question, they're asking you for an answer to something, answer them with a question.
Okay, so how might that look like if I came to you as a franchisee, say you're my business coach, and I say, Rachel, I can't find or where do I need that marketing campaign link?
Do you remember where you got it last time, Angela?
I don't.
Do you remember your login to Fran Connect, where you go to get your newsletters, the updated
Yeah, I
newsletter?
think I can figure that out, right?
Yeah.
Or what about, where might that be?
Um, when you
Would you say?
go into Fran Connect, you remember how to access the knowledge base in Fran Connect?
Okay,
Yeah, do
yeah.
you remember it has the table of contents in the different
Uh,
sections?
okay,
Do
got
you
it. Yeah,
remember
that's
that?
good. Yeah, I'm visualing. Okay, and then yeah, that's okay. I'll leave it at that. That is so good. Just
Pretty good.
change your
It's
answer.
so uncomfortable, even if you start with just a like, do you remember? Or, you know, um, do you, I think a do you remember is always like a really easy one when you know it's something that they've done before.
Yeah,
Um, but if you want to be a little more challenging, depending on the person, it would be like, again, answering them back with, if I were to ask you, Angela, where would I find the marketing campaign playbook from last fall? What would you tell me? So
right.
like,
Like, what would you say if you
yeah,
had to find it? Yeah, I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
I love that. And I think if people are going to go do that, you can always tell the person on the other end. Especially if it's a franchisee, you can
yeah,
say, "I'm doing this because I don't want you to have to depend on me. I don't want you to
yeah,
have to need me, because I want you to be able to move forward without me
yeah.
in this kind of situation."
I used this with my team this year. We, at our offsite planning session, we all went around and did our 2026 New Year's resolutions for like the business, like for your own personal growth. And that is exactly what mine was. And I told them that I am going to be better at not giving you guys the answers and
Right.
challenging you. And
Yeah.
I am going to, my New Year's resolution is to answer your questions with questions. So you're going to see
I love
me
that.
trying to ask, so I kind of set it up so they knew what I was doing.
Love that. Yeah, yeah. So then that's so they're not like, what, all of a sudden you're
Yeah,
changing on me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, huge thank you, Rachel, for your time.
Thank you for having me, Angela. It was a lot of fun.
Good. Well, yeah, you shared so many things. I can't wait to get this episode out, and I'm going to bet that we're going to probably use lots of clips from it. So thank you so much. So just for our audience here, if that sparked something, we ask you to, share the podcast with anybody. And if you're curious about, what Rachel and her team have done, actually, I didn't ask you this, but I'm assuming they can find you maybe on
Absolutely,
LinkedIn.
yeah.
Or
Find me on
how's the
LinkedIn,
best
Rachel
way?
Southard. Yeah.
Yeah, Rachel Southard on LinkedIn. Okay, so everybody, until next time, go be awesome.